So,
Hi.
so just by way of introduction, and you all saw what we put in the e-blast and in the e-news the last couple of weeks, but um, uh, it was actually Dorothy Santeri who had the idea of contacting Sunshine. And when I talked to her, what struck me is that she is the perfect person to end what we're calling the year of resignation, because a sort of major thing that's happening in the culture is people saying, I'm tired of being, not having work-life balance, and I'm tired of not having my needs met by my employer, and so I'm going to go out and find something else to do. And Sunshine actually did that how many years ago? 8? Was it?
No, over a decade ago.
Oh, over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So way ahead of the curve. And so I think in some ways, um, one of the things I'm interested in is just sort of how to make it work. And then the other thing that I'm personally fascinated by, some of you know that I do screen printing, and the fake kind of etching that's just like this little cream that you smear on and rinse off, and she does the real thing. And so I'm in awe. I bow to your arts and crafts and technology skills, and so I'm really eager to hear all about that. So with that, I will turn it over to you, and we can hear what you do, and I hope we'll have some time at the end for some questions.
Oh, yes. If you have any questions at any point, please interrupt me. This is the first time like I've done one of these talks. I've been interviewed a lot. And I think within the next couple months, a book is actually coming out where they interviewed me for part of the book, about how to make this kind of a life and this kind of a business. So, like, I guess I'll start at the beginning. And that was like over 30 years ago. This was just, I woke up one day and I said, I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to etch. And that's exactly what I did. I woke up and I went out and I found all the pieces and I started doing it, but it was just a hobby. And I did an art show here and there. And then Danielle came along, and some of you might remember because I used to, well, I did. I brought her to Temple. And Danielle came into the world 10 weeks early and not breathing. And she was only 3.5 pounds. And I was working in corporate America. I was working at Abbott. And I said, look, I have this little baby and they're telling me all these things and she's going to need therapies. And they said, either you have a job.
Laura, excuse me, I think a couple people are waiting to get in.
And they told me, that Abbott, which is a medical company, which is told me, well, either you want a job or you don't want a job. And I said, well, I want my child. And so I chose my child, which any good mother does. And I took this hobby that I absolutely adored and figured out how to make it a business. And it has not been easy, and it hasn't been a good road or anything like that. And actually, just 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at McCormick Place waiting to check in for the largest Midwest show there is. It's 120,000 people that attend this show called C2E2. And it's me, and there were only 2 other women sitting there. And it was all these men waiting to check in. And someone asked a question about, this show, which I've been doing for many, many years. So I answered the question, and it was like, they just kept talking. It was like I didn't exist as a woman. And it's really hard. It's really, the comic book world is very, very hard for a woman because it's still very male driven. Which is difficult. And the other woman just looked at me and she shook her head like, don't even try, don't even do it. So I don't listen. I just get louder. Some of you have seen my work. I started out, doing smaller shows and just building and building. And with that, my work has gotten better and better. And I know Sandy Fugate, she's ordered pieces from me and stuff like that. I've blossomed, and it's this incredible journey. So I started off just doing these comic book things and not really thinking bigger. And I've always been a reader and a science fiction nerd, and that's where I started, and it's gotten bigger with the people who attend these conventions, who reach out to me. And it's been this incredible quest, and I'm in my mid 50s now, and to think that I just keep thinking, why didn't I do this when I was younger? I could have, but I'm doing this now, and it's just this, it's just blessed. I'm so blessed and incredible life. And I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of all over the place. So I started off just in the whole comic book world, the superheroes, doing, you know, all the different things like that. Game of Thrones came along. I started doing work with them. So you're talking
Sunshine,
about
what exactly did you do with the superheroes comic books?
Okay, so I would do art for them, and then I would take this art and I would draw it out. And because I'm older and because I don't know technology, everything I do is done by hand. So I would draw everything out by hand, and then I cut it out on vinyl. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. So this is vinyl, and this part is all cut out. Okay. So vinyl becomes my resistance. So then I put it on a piece. Okay. So this is just a really pretty blue mug. And then I put it on this piece right here. Okay. So this here is vinyl. And then I tape up the rest of the mug because I'm going to sandblast. Now, if you can see, so when you start to sandblast, you start to cut in, which you can see the dull part right here.
Yeah.
And that's what starts to happen. And then you cut all the way through, so you get the white right here. This shiny part is because that was covered up with vinyl. Okay, so then you get your design. Okay, so here we go with the Fonz. I tried to think of something that you all would know. So Henry Winkler. So what I did was I drew him, I cut him out of vinyl, I put it on here, and then you see this white part? That isn't a sticker. That is actually inside. So I blasted away the enamel, the glaze, and it's actually carved in. I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually carved in. Now, I got to meet him several years ago, back in 2018, him and his beautiful wife, Sharon. I got to have breakfast with them, and he's just an incredible human being. So I made him a mug. And then I made myself a mug, and he was courteous enough to sign it for me. I have a whole case in front of in the inside front porch of my home of mugs from people signing my mugs, which is really cool. And as you get better and better, you can do tinier lines. Wow. Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. And like, this is not easy at all, because what can happen is when you're sandblasting, you can actually burn your piece, and then you can't sell it. So this is one of my most difficult pieces. And like I said, people walk into my booth who I would never ever imagine, you know, and I get to meet all these incredible people. So what happened this one time was, people walk in and I just talk to them. I give them my spiel. My spiel is, hi, how are you today? Everything you see here is made by hand. These hands, I'm the artist. I draw everything. Everything is dishwasher safe. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And that's my spiel. And I say it to everybody. And if you're in my booth for like 15, 20 minutes looking, they start to laugh because they hear my spiel over and over and over. I don't say, what are you looking for? Can I help you? I don't believe in hard selling. I think my art and my quality of my pieces speak for themselves. And I people who come into my booth who've bought from me like 8 years ago, and they start telling everybody, I've had her mugs for 8 years and I throw them in the dishwasher and they look like they're brand new. Well, one time, this gentleman walks in with a group of people and he looks at my stuff and he says to me, so do you do awards? So do you do all this by your hand? And I said, oh, sure I do. I've never done an award, but of course, oh, sure, I do awards. I now do the Crystal Film Festival for Pensacon. These are the Crystal Awards that I do for them. And then there's usually writing that goes down the sides. This is their symbol because it's Pensacola, Florida, the trident. And this one's mine because when you're blasting crystal, since there's lead, I blast with aluminum oxide. So metal blasting into lead, it can burst. And this one did burst here. So this one is mine. It sits on my desk. And I do all of their awards for this film festival in Pensacola, Florida by hand. And they adore it. It's led a very interesting life. So you never know who's going to walk into your booth. And it just happened to be some directors from some movies who knew who was putting on this film festival, who called me and said, here, do our awards and we're going to give you free space to sell your stuff and we'll bring you out here. And that's what they do every year. I get to like kind of walk a red carpet and sit in a green room. And it's very odd. I'm walking through Menards one day and my phone rings and I pick it up and it's Jim Decker. Jim Decker is the agent to Ernie Hudson and a few other people. And so he's just talking to me and I hang up. And the person I was with in Menards says, well, who is that? I said, oh, it's Jim Decker, you know, the agent to Ernie Hudson, among others. And they're like, why are they calling you? I go, because they think I'm somebody I'm not. They think that I'm in the biz and I'm not. But I'm like I said, I have this very unique and blessed life. Again, this is a pretty, I don't know if you can see it. I got to do the Navy's birthday ball bash, and I did like 4,000 of, and I'm not joking, 4,000 of these. And look at this tiny little writing on the back. And
how long does it take you to do one of those?
oh, a single one, it took forever. I had to hire a whole new crew to come in and help me. Yeah, this took over a month to do 4,000 of them. When you're sandblasting glass is instantaneous. It's like the minute the spray hits it, it is blasted, which is good and it's bad because you have to be very careful not to blast where you don't want it to go or else you wreck your piece. When you are blasting a ceramic mug like this, it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes each. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but when you are literally doing hundreds and hundreds of mugs, my hands and wrists are like, we don't like you. Can you just chop us off now? It's a lot.
So now when you're doing the vinyl, is the vinyl reusable, or do you
No,
actually do 4,000 vinyl
no,
adhesive things?
no, no. So you apply the vinyl, you tape up the rest of the mug, you blast it in, and where did I put that piece? There it is. And once you blast it, you wreck that vinyl. See, you can no longer use this vinyl.
Okay.
That's wrecked. Okay, so then you soak it in a great big tub of hot water and peel it off. So each one of my pieces is an original single piece. And I kick myself. It's like, why couldn't I have learned how to paint and been able to make prints? You know, I'm in awe of these painters who paint these masterpieces and then they can do like 1,000 prints and sell them. But here I am making piece by piece by piece. One thing I always whenever anyone comes into my booth or they take my card and I get an email, I always, always, always give back. I give a lot to the YMCA for their different auctions to raise money, just different organizations. And then this one is Battle of the Badges, and it's for autism, and it's the firefighters who ring it out with the policemen to raise money. So I do that. Couple of years ago, or was it during COVID? I'm not sure. Anyway, I got a phone call from the Milwaukee Opera, and they said, "Hey, can you make us our glasses?" And of course I can make you your glasses. It's like, where did you get my number? How did you hear about me? And I forget that I do these interviews. I grace the cover of Wisconsin Life magazine. I have been on NPR. I've been on several YouTube and podcasts. Yeah, so it's this really cool life. And I travel the country, at least I used to a lot. Now I'm trying to just do me personally. I have a road crew, but I try to personally only go out to one a year, you know, and I pick and I choose, like the film festival in Pensacola. I am so there. Then there's New York, and New York's the country's largest Comic-Con, and they get 250,000 people. And you know, it's very overwhelming. It is very, very overwhelming. And I have a U-shaped booth, so people walk in. So I always feel like I have my own space and I can breathe, and things like that. There are things that you don't think about. It's all of a sudden, I'm going to walk out onto the street of New York after all these people have seen me selling, and they know I have a ton of cash on me. How am I going to walk how many blocks to my vehicle? And I'm scared I'm going to get jumped. There are a lot of things like that that enter your mind that you go, okay, I have to plan for this. I have to figure this one out. And I'm blessed because I have a friend who's been in the Army for over 20 years, and he is like 6'5", and he takes leave out of the service when I do certain conventions to make sure that I, as a 5'1" woman, can get to my vehicle okay, and I don't get harassed. So he holds all my money, and I don't have it on me as a person. So I just did a show this last weekend in Rosemont, and I was lucky enough to park literally right outside the doors where you enter into the back of the hall. So we have to think about things like that, you know. Vendors are just, we get targeted a lot, and it can be scary at times. So I always make sure that I'm never walking alone. I make sure that I have a bank account at a bank that you can find across the United States, so that I'm not carrying this money, and I can go deposit it and I don't have to worry about it.
Sunshine, you
Yes.
mentioned that you had a crew that traveled. How many people work for you?
Before COVID, I had a crew of 27 people.
Whoa.
Yeah, before COVID. So one minute you have a business and it's going super well, and the next day the country is shut down and you're out of business. And I had to call all these people and tell them, I'm sorry, I have no work for you. Now, they're not just in Wisconsin. I have people in Florida who work for me, in Ohio who work for me, in Seattle who work for me. And I hire somebody to drive my stuff, and then I have a crew there. So yeah, I have a crew here who helps me build my stock. I always have enough stock for 4 shows, which is huge. Yeah, yeah, this year has been crazy, and it's been so hard. with all of a sudden, like some shows, they care and they say you can't come in unless you're vaccinated or show us a negative test. And other shows, it's like, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. And so you're sitting in your booth and you're masked and people are giving you dirty looks. And I'm just like, I don't want to go home with anything. I don't want to give anyone anything. And then other shows, you know, people come in and they've got their gloves on and they want to know, how are you cleaning everything? Because people are touching stuff. And I say, okay, I've got an alcohol liquid solution in a spray bottle and I do a light mist, you know, over stuff and then people can touch stuff. I'm taking every single precaution I possibly can. And in order to go on the road for me, you have to be vaccinated. It's just what I believe in, you know, and I'm not trying to be political with anybody. It's just that I want them to be safe. I want to be safe. They're going to come near me. They're going to come near my children. Danielle is, you know, has her problems and I don't want anything to happen to her. Or anyone else. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I used to have quite a large crew that worked for me here. And it just, nobody wants to go back. I don't know where anybody is. Nobody like wants to go back to work. I'm having a hard time finding people.
Are they artists like you are? Are they doing etching or are they doing the distribution and the?
I am the only artist. I can teach someone to sandblast, and I have. But yeah, they come in and I'll say, okay, I've got this many mugs that need to be, you know, taped up. And you know, people can tape up a mug, they can soak and peel a mug. I can teach someone how to sandblast, but I'm the only one who does art. I have a young lady who's worked for me since the very beginning, actually, on and off. And she's known every aspect of this job except drawing. But and she's a huge help. But she has a regular 9 to 5. She's actually an accountant. And she'll come in a couple times during the week in the evenings, and then she comes in on the weekends and works for me. I was pulling this picture up. This is how big my booth is.
Wow.
Whoa.
And those mugs go 3 in a row. So they go 3 deep. So I have all of these mugs and they are 3 deep.
Wow.
So yeah.
And so how do you have you know, I mean, I'm assuming that things get hot and then they cool off. And so do you kind of monitor and say, oh, Game of Thrones is fading and we're gonna, but this, and I can't even make up names. I'm sorry.
It's
Murder,
okay.
She Wrote is really coming back, or West
Yeah.
Wing. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's exactly what happens. Okay. So Game of Thrones was super, super hot and I had a whole line for them and then it died down, but there's a spinoff coming. So I've always kept like 4 of their designs up on my shelf. All right. Star Wars never leaves my shelf because it's Star Wars. But The Mandalorian, which has been a spinoff, has been very hot. So I've added. So I take down and I add and it comes and goes. And right now I am working on drawings for 2022. The hard part is the things that I don't know, the things that I'm counting on people to tell me about. I don't watch anime, you know, that's a young person's kind of thing. And so I wait and I listen and I put it out there. And I'm like, so what's the hot anime and what's it about? And who's the most popular person on that anime? And would you rather just see their logo or would you rather see them on a, you know, something? And I like to call it usable art. Okay. Sometimes people don't have the money to put a picture on their wall, but they'll buy a mug because it's usable. So yeah, I've also, I did the knights from, what are they called? The Templar Knights. Oh, what are they called? The Masons. the Masons. An entire lodge came to me and asked me to do their initials on
Oh.
all of their swords, which was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I've done full sets of armor for the Bristol Renaissance Fair. I can sandblast into anything. So I'm not just doing mugs. My system is huge. I have a 2-stage 60-gallon air compressor tank bolted to my garage floor. And the hose comes into the house then. So we don't have the noise in the house.
But I mean,
So,
don't
yeah.
we all really have those bolted to our garage floors? No?
Right. So you do all this at home. Do you have a studio?
Okay, my drawing studio is upstairs in an extra bedroom. And then my entire basement is dedicated to the business.
Oh,
So yeah, I built a wall for a blasting studio down there. And then there's a huge room where I keep my stock and we do all the taping and applying. And then where my laundry room is where we do all the soaking and the peeling.
Do you
So,
get your
yeah.
kids involved?
I try with Danielle. Danielle's not real hip on it, except she likes going to the conventions. She enjoys going to the conventions. Moshe, on the other hand, I think he was 3 or 4, and I'm sleeping, and it was like a Sunday morning, and he woke me up, and he woke me up, and he says, "Mama, time to work. Let's go." And I'm like, what? But yeah, he's very involved. He's very much, okay, how can I help? What can I do? Danielle's at an age and she likes the anime and she likes meeting the stars and stuff like that. The 2 weeks ago at McCormick Place, the guy who runs the floor came over to the booth, scooped her up, and took her over to meet all the voice actors out of her favorite anime. So yeah, and people are always like, aren't you kind of starstruck? And I go, only once. There was only one time I was truly starstruck, and it wouldn't be who most people think. It's John Travolta. I don't know if you can see the cheesy smile, but he was awesome. I brought my Saturday Night Fever album and he signed it to me and he talked to me and he was wonderful.
But do you have John Travolta, do you have Saturday Night Fever merchandise or?
No, he was just coming. He was doing some publicity for a movie.
Okay.
And I went to the people running the show and I said, there is no way I can afford this ticket to meet him. What can I do? What can I do? And they said, the day the show opens, come talk to us. And I said, okay. And I came over and I said, okay, I raised enough money that I can maybe get an autograph, but I can't do the whole package. And I really want the whole package, and the vice president of the company came to me and said, you don't have to put your money away. Don't worry about it. And I started to cry and I just like, you don't understand. I was in 6th grade. It was Grease Lightning. And he's just been my everything since I was like 10, and he was someone that you wouldn't think you were going to meet at a convention. So yeah.
And so now,
What
are
else?
you having any supply chain issues on the other side?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's just craziness. All of our glass and everything, I have gone through supplier after supplier after supplier, and I finally found one who could get me like 30 cases of Steins. And it was horrible because I'll say, okay, when are you getting it in? And nobody can tell me. They're in containers out in the sea, sitting there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a mess. Like I will go, usually I have like 2 suppliers. I have like 8 right now because this one can get me this and this one can get me this and this one. And I like everything to be uniform. Okay, so like this is a black mug and this is a green mug, and they have to be uniform, because to display, you don't want things to just look out of place. All right. And they all have to be, I use the 15-ounce El Grande large coffee mug. And all of a sudden I'm looking at like 6 different vendors. Like, can you get me these colors? And how many cases can I get of them? And it's impossible right now. It's so hard. It really is.
Do you do like mail order, like a website people order off of, any of that?
Yeah, I just had a young man come to me and he's starting his own business. So he's like, let me build you a website. I said, okay, great. And so he just built me a website. Otherwise, I have a business Facebook page. And yeah, I do a lot of mail order, a lot of mail order. I do the coffee mugs for the South Carolina Federal Credit Union. And so I'm mailing them out like 50, 60 mugs at a time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many hours do you work a week?
All of
I
them.
I couldn't tell you. I will tell you this story though. So Mother's Day, I get a card from Moshe, and it was, I love my mom. My mom works a lot. My mom works very hard. And everything was, my mom works. And I went, all right, I have the message. I need to stop. So what I do now is when they're in school, I work. Okay. And then I go and I pick them up from school. They get out at 3. He goes to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock. At that time, I put him to bed and I go back to work.
Mm.
And there has to be this compromise in your life so that I'm mom and I'm present for him and I'm present for my daughter. And then I have to go back to work. And it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. But getting that card from him was very eye-opening. And I don't think he meant it in a bad way at all. But yeah, it was very eye-opening that I work very hard. I work a lot. And most people go to work and they leave work and they go home. I live with my work and it doesn't stop. So I've had to learn to say, I'm taking this day off. And that's it. I'm just taking this day off. So, and I'm actually doing it tomorrow. I told everyone, don't come in tomorrow. I'm taking a day off. My kids are off. We're going to go see Sing 2. I'm not working. So yeah, that's been very difficult because I'm so used to going.
So you need a better boss again. The problem before was your boss, and the problem again working for yourself is always the boss, right?
Exactly. I hurt myself. I have nerve damage on my right foot. I hurt myself when I was in New York and I ignored it. And a month later, I'm doing a gaming show in Milwaukee, and my foot blew up and I couldn't even close down my booth. I had to call friends and say, hey, can you come pack this down? I have to go to the hospital. And I was in tears, and they kept me and they said, you have nerve damage. Well, how could you even be standing on this foot? And I'm like, well, I don't have time. They're like, what do you mean? I go, I work and I don't have time. I have my kids and I work and I don't have time. And so they came into the room with a note for my boss to relieve me from work for a whole week so I could put my foot up. And I said, oh, my boss won't let me have a week off. And they're like, what? I said, no, she's the B word. She's the total B word. She won't give me any time. And they're like, we don't understand. But yeah, you have to give yourself a break. And I have to learn to do that because I just go.
Wow.
So do you have any other samples there to show us?
Oh, this is what I did for lodge number 20 for the Masons.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
kind of flash this one. I love this one.
That's fun.
Yeah, octopuses are really in.
Who knew?
So
Really
what does a mug like that sell for?
I'm sorry, what?
What does a mug like that sell for?
My big stein is only $25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's a 27-ounce stein. So I do have a few pictures to show you.
Octopus mug?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's me with the late great Stan Lee. That was
Who
right
is-
after
Who is it?
Who is it?
Stan Lee.
We can't hear you.
That was Stan Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Think I have one of Danielle.
And
Me. Yep.
what was
This-
Stan Lee like?
He was a dirty old man. He talked to my boobs the whole time.
Okay.
William Shatner, one of the most hilarious men I've ever met. Just
Really?
so funny. Yeah, he was a ray of sunshine. He was light and he was funny and he joked with everyone. And he was really he was just so nice. He was happy to be there. And I've gotten a chance to go and listen to him speak. And he's fun. He's very charismatic. And actually, I don't know if Eileen Anderson is in here or not, but she came with me and she and I got to go listen to him speak and he was phenomenal. And then Danielle got to go with me here, and that's Tom Hiddleston, Elizabeth Olsen, and Chris Evans. And people would pay, that's about a $1,200 picture right there.
Wow.
Yeah. People pay a lot of money to be near these people. And I'm just very blessed that I get to know the showrunners and they say, hey, you want to do this? And I say, sure, when? Because I'll bring my kid. And yeah, Moshe was supposed to be in the picture, but I think he was 3 at that time and he was throwing a fit. So nope. Yeah, but I don't think I have any. Hey, Danielle, can you hand me those cups up there?
So Sunshine, I knew you had this business,
Uh-huh.
but I thought you were down in your basement doing 5 mugs for this person and
right.
10 for another person. I had no idea. This
Yeah.
is so impressive.
Oh, thank you, baby. But yeah, so like I said, it started off as a hobby and it just grew. It just grew and grew. And I made that jump. I made that choice,
And
to
so
leave
do you
corporate America and be
and
here.
become corporate America. So do you
Yeah.
have an exit strategy?
Not yet. I'm trying to figure that one out. I don't know how you retire. I don't know how you get out of this. And I need to figure it out. I'm in my mid-50s. My hands, my feet, my wrists aren't going to be able to do this forever. But yeah, that's honestly what I'm thinking right now is how do I leave it? It's an exciting life. It's very tiring. But when you are at a show and these people walk in and they want to know you, and it's an exciting feeling because I'm just sunshine. I'm just mom. I'm just the one who corrects Danielle when she's reading Hebrew. I'm the one who reads books at night with Moshe. And then you go to a show and people walk in and they're like, you did this? You did this? And like a pride comes over you, and I can't explain it. It's an incredible feeling. It's like
It's
maybe I'm
obviously
making,
very fulfilling for you.
Yeah.
Sunshine, I'm sorry I missed the beginning teaching Hebrew, but do you have people who work for you?
oh yeah, I have people. I was explaining that I have people on the East Coast. I have people in Ohio for Midwest shows. I have people on the West Coast in Seattle. And then I have a home base. I have people who help me here in the house.
But do they know the trade, or are you the only artist?
I'm the only artist.
Yeah, because I was thinking your way out is to teach people the trade and be over them,
No,
supervising them. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I'm the only one who does the drawing. Yeah.
And are there any new products that are coming out, or is it like, I mean, is it like Mugs and Steins and they're eternal, and is anybody going like, no, I really need my smartwatch or my phone case or my,
Actually, the Waukesha Police Department, they got a new chief a year ago, and so they called me up. They said, the chief needs a new mug, but he needs his handcuffs. I do a lot of handcuffs, and it's interesting to see what the police want on their handcuffs, what they ask for me to put on their handcuffs. A lot of sayings like, this is the way, and just different like emblems that they want on there from different, I don't know, it's interesting, but because I can go real tiny, because it's all done by hand, yeah, I do a lot of police, and that, and it's funny, and I asked them, I said, why am I doing so many handcuffs? And they go, because so many squads can get pulled in, and they'll be handcuffing, and then they'll say, those are my cuffs, and the other cop will be like, no, those are mine, and they'll look at them and they'll see the saying or their badge number that I put on them or whatever, and then they'll know who they all belong to. And I've done all of the Waukesha Police Department stuff. I've done full glass dining room tables with scenes. I did this incredible Japanese like traditional art piece for one family. It was beautiful. But yeah, I do a lot of different things.
Can you engrave kiddish cups?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no,
Oh, we
there's-
might have
I
some
was
jobs for
thinking the
you.
exact same thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
the smallest item, and what's the smallest item? And other than the glass table, what's the biggest item?
Oh, the biggest item was it was a dining room table, which was huge. But I've also done full sets of armor, which I did all the research of what should be on his armor, and I designed the whole thing for him. And that was really, really cool. I do shot glasses. Shot glasses vertically, I'm working with 1.7 inches, horizontally only like 0.8. And that's pretty tiny.
Okay.
So yeah.
What does go on a suit of armor? I mean,
Actually a lot of flowers. A lot of interesting flowers.
okay.
Yep.
With symbolic meanings and.
Yeah, well, for whatever period they had. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do
A
you
lot
take,
of Tudor roses.
Yeah.
do you take pictures of everything you've done? So you have a album of all?
I have a ton of pictures. Yes, I've done all of that. Yep,
Have you done paperweights?
I could. If, like I said, I blast with aluminum oxide. My system is actually sold to people who want to do headstone engraving.
Oh,
So I can do very large pieces. I actually have Tiffany from Temple. I have one of her overhangs to her garage sitting in my basement now. She's like, can you just sandblast off all the paint? I'm like, yeah, when I get to it, I can do that. So yeah, I can do anything from this big to huge. And because it's aluminum oxide, I can blast into anything. And I get really nice clean lines, as you saw. My biggest order was for the Navy, that 4,000 piece order. And that was interesting. One of my biggest honors was the George A. Romero Foundation came to me and said that they wanted me to be their executive artist. And I got to do that for a little bit, and then COVID hit and it kind of fizzled. But that check that I got from them came from his widow, and it was a pink check. So I took that money and I put it in electronically so I could keep the pink check from her. And I took that money, I took a good chunk, and I took Moshe out bike shopping, and he got a Spider-Man bike that shoots webs. So yeah, that's what I decided to do with the good chunk of that money.
What was that? From whom was that?
That was George A. Romero. So if you remember back in the 60s, the black and white, like Night of the Living Dead horror film stuff, I'm not a horror film person. And so when they called me to do some art for them and do some drawings for them, I had to sit myself down and watch these movies. And I was so freaked out because I don't watch horror at all. But his widow called me and said, I saw your stuff and you do everything in black and white. And all of his films were black and white. And can you please do our artwork? And yeah, sure, of course. So yeah, that was a huge honor. I've done swag for Dedger's Dark Coffin Classics, and there's a music studio down in New Orleans called Jamba, and I've done stuff for them. There's other artists. That's the biggest compliment that you can get, is when another artist comes to you and says, I trust you with my art. Put this into something for me. And I've done that several times. I've also done it for authors. Dirk Manning, Quincy Allen have come to me and said, make my characters come alive and put it on this for me. So that's interesting too.
And
Do you
what
get
are
your referrals mainly from being at these conventions?
Yeah, it's word of mouth. It's totally word of mouth.
What are the licensing and copyright issues with all of this? Do they handle
That
it?
is my favorite question. My favorite question. Okay. Because I have people come in and they say, well, how can you do that? And I say, you don't see the bat symbol in here, do you? And you don't see Captain America's shield. Everything I do is hand drawn. Everything I do. So it's my art. Now, do I ask DC, can I do the Batman logo? Sure, I ask them. And what do they say? Give me $25,000. I don't have 25 grand to give you to do one symbol. So, but I always ask. There are loopholes, okay? So the loophole is 7 points to 33% difference. So I can take something that is copywritten, redraw it, and do 7 points of difference. Then what I do after I do my drawing and make my template is I take a blue pen, and it's like a blue pencil, okay? It's a specialty blue pencil, and you circle your 7 points or where you've done your 33% difference. You put it in an envelope, you seal the envelope, and you mail it to yourself. If I ever were to get called into court, I can then pull out that envelope. It's gone through the mail federally, okay? That is my protection. Then I can hand it to the court and have them open it. It's been sealed. They open it, they can see where I've made the changes. Gaming companies adore people who want to make their stuff. And since I'm not a printer and I can't make t-shirts of their stuff, they're always like, yeah, go ahead. I'm not trying to take their game from them or anything like that. They see it as free advertising. The hardest people to work with are your animators. They are your hardest people, and they know that they can tie you up in court forever. So if they walk into my booth and they say, take it down, I say, oh, I'm so sorry, of course. I don't make, I have walked into my booth and Marvel and DC were sitting there in front of my booth. And I'm like, you opened up my booth? Well, we heard you were selling our stuff. Okay, well, you see my stuff. Am I selling your stuff? No, but I did get to meet, Stan Lee, and I did get to show him my portfolio. And he looked at me and he told me I was very good. And I said, thank you, Mr. Lee. Can I have a job? And he said, no. So, but I couldn't help but ask. But yeah, so there are loopholes. There's a funny little saying, you don't mess with the mouse. Disney, I would never, ever think of drawing Mickey Mouse. But if someone called me up and said, I want to order Mickey Mouse, not a problem. I'm allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to display it. So you have to know the law, and you have to know the loopholes and the right way to do things versus the wrong.
Wow.
Because I see it a lot. I've seen people from these major companies go into people's booths, and this one company was so stupid, and they took pages out of comic books and blew them up and were selling them as posters. And I've seen representatives go in there and literally tear up their entire booth and then tell them, I'll see you in court, and sue them. Because you can't do that. And especially with today's technology, you can just go online and steal people's art. I've seen it. It's happened to me. I woke up one day and I do a Dark Knight, and a company out of Kentucky was printing my Dark Knight on t-shirts with their sports team logo. And I was like, that's something I drew. And so my friend, actually the kid's godparent, Beth, her husband is an attorney. And I said, will you please write a letter for me? And he wrote a cease and desist, and they stopped. And I never saw a dime, but they stopped printing out my design.
So we're almost at the end of our time. We started a little late, so maybe we could run a little late, but any other questions? So those of us who would love to see a demo, how do we arrange for that?
Well, you can't really see me sandblast. That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe after all this silliness of COVID, and we have heard going on, and we're kicking its butt, maybe I can just bring in a huge amount of pieces and everybody can see a bunch.
That'd be
Cool.
great.
It'd be awesome. I mean, I'd love to give you an opportunity to, show your stuff, and if people want to buy it, is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, if that's
Some
what
kind
you
of
all-
setting where we're having a sale of some sort. I think maybe years ago we had a Hanukkah sale and you brought some of your stuff.
I think so.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a long time. So yeah, like you said, when the world starts being a little more normal, maybe we
Yeah.
could think of something like that. Thank you so much. And thanks, Laura, for hosting in my early absence, but I'm so glad I got to see the last part of it. And it's
Thank you, Sunshine.
You are amazing.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dorothy, for
Yes,
honoring
thank
me
you for
with
making the
this.
connection.